Hey, welcome ladies and gentlemen. You are now watching VG8 brought to you by VIS. I'm your host Dragonborn. Joining me today, it's Denominate as we look to cast the off-stream match that is not happening on the main Vainglory channel. Right now it is Gangstars versus Echo Fox. We're going to be bringing you guys Nova Esports versus Team Solomid. And this is going to be an exciting one. We're actually just about ready to get into the draft. In fact, we are ready to go, but quick thoughts, Denominate, before we get into this. What do you expect to see out of this game? As we did see Nova drop 2 against Hammers last week. Do they have what it takes to put up a game against Team Solomid?
Nova, to me, is in a very interesting spot. So when they do bring their A game, they can compete with anybody in this tournament, and we've seen it in the past. Now, granted, TSM had played with a sub. All around, when Nova plays well, they look amazing, and they can take games off of Team Solomid. In fact, taking a series off of them in the VIS Pro.
Right.
So depending on which Nova we see, and I've stressed this a lot in games that we've seen Nova play periodically in the past, is we just don't have enough consistency out of Nova. So if they can start off on the right foot today, I definitely think they can hold their own and take TSM to a Game 3 or even just take the series. But one thing that's always been known about TSM is they are very, very consistent, and that's just not something that we've seen out of Nova. So I think coming into an endurance game, TSM should have the edge here.
Absolutely.
But if Nova gets some kills early and gets their motivation up and just is in the zone today, then we can definitely see them put up a huge fight against Team Solomid.
Yeah, well, we're going to see right now as we jump in. It does look like it's actually Team Solomid on A side. As we get right into it, and Grumpjaw is the first ban. Now, we've talked about how Grace has really resurged as a very, very strong hero as she's just hit the fold. So, although a Baron ban is likely as it does come through, this is a question on how teams are going to be picking Grace, either if they go first pick Grace or they instead do prioritize those weapon carries.
Yeah, and Grace is incredibly strong this patch all around. There's not really a point where she super excels or super falls off. Her movement in the early game and her damage in the early game is phenomenal, as well as her healing and sustain in the late game is phenomenal. There are ways to deal with her, though. So, for example, a Glaive or a Catherine or anybody that has a direct stun can stun her out of her ult. So that is something huge if you let the Grace go through that you want to be prepared for, is getting that ult interrupted. It is a Kestrel that comes out for the side of Nova, though, and Kestrel is going to be really big this patch, too. She's had some pretty sizable buffs to her ability to sustain in a fight, both her energy and the upkeep of her adrenaline stacks, and the Grace ban does come out here.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by Nova. I mean, Vox pickup going over to Team Solomid is obviously a really strong pick, and one that's obviously one that Best Chuckade can comfortably play. And so the Kestrel play coming out here for Nova is not too bad. But yeah, Grace really could get in onto the front line, be a real thrasher. So what I expect is, the Lyra ban. So clearly here, Team Solomid now, they kind of want to make sure they can get him onto at least an Arden or a Catherine instead of getting that Lyra. The healing can be really potent against a weapon carry like Vox, who kind of does more tick damage early on.
Right, agreed. And I think getting healers off the table in general are pretty needed. I do like the Grace ban. Grace and Vox are particularly deadly because quite often your way to deal with the Vox is to jump him early in a fight, and if you get that Divine Intervention down, you're going to reduce the incoming damage Vox takes, as well as provide a huge burst heal and maybe not have to use Fountain yet in the fight. So to me, I really like the Grace ban away. However, they did also they do have next pick, so they would have had a potential to get Grace, which could do the essentially same thing for this Kestrel, allowing Kestrel to live longer in a fight, get that active camo down, follow up with a stun. Might just not be a comfortable pick for the side of Echo Fox yet.
Maybe, yeah, it might just be something they're ready for, ready to go against even. So with that, we look to get through the next night. Actually, Team Solomid going to some bonus time, taking their time here on this next pick. At this point, they're going to start rounding out. They're going to be deciding if they're going to go for, for jungle, how they want to play here. And Von Z, man, there's a lot open for him. We saw him play Baptiste last week. He played it really well. It has been a very strong pick. And against a Kestrel, who's really slippery, that Ordain would be very effective.
Indeed, indeed. So, Baptiste, to me, can work into Kestrel, but I feel like Kestrel has an incredible amount of upfront damage, and Baptiste, since he needs to be at the front of a fight, can be very susceptible to other skill shot heroes. Sure. So heroes like Scarf, Sky, if your positioning is good, your forward barrage outranges the bad mojo. These heroes that have longer range than him can really do a good job out poking him as long as you're playing on the edge of his range. Yeah. And an Adagio comes out to follow suit, and we know Flash has been very good on this Adagio. So Adagio overall this split hasn't had a very high win rate. I think if I remember my notes correctly, he's sitting around a 15% win rate. I think Flash should be able to, in this game, bring that up a little bit. I do like the draft. The Baptiste is a good counter to Kashka, but this is Von C we're talking about. I think Von C is probably going to prioritize some early shield and should be able to handle it pretty well.
Yeah, and I actually, when you talk about Von C, the Kashka was open, and they actually took a long time to think about that pick, so I'm sure they were debating playing a Baptiste or playing another Crystal Carry, but Kashka is that comfort pick that you obviously always want to take if you're Team Solomid with a Von C. The Adagio pick was like you said as well. It's really a comfort pick. They could have gone Arden just as easily in this case, but that healer is very, very strong in certain circumstances, and it's something that Flash X has excelled on.
Indeed, and it's one of those things that Flash X really excels on everybody. So, I mean, this is one of the biggest strengths of Team Solomid to me, is that they have such flexibility in their draft where they can pick a hero and Flash can pretty much at any point run it as a captain. We've seen him run Captain Glaive with success. We've seen him run, Adagios, Lyras, Grumpjaws, Flicker even. And Flicker is one that I'm surprised we haven't seen come out of TSM yet. So we'll just have to see moving forward how they really affect their drafts. Flash being really aggressive here. Might get a chance to steal it. Starboy, with the Merciless Pursuit, can be a little bit of a nuisance for here. Might be able to trap Flash into a root, but it doesn't look like it.
Yeah, he's just kind of harassing, keeping vision. It's actually not a bad strategy if you could survive it. You were talking about how Grace has a lot of potential, but with the heal, Flash X could take some shots and still get back full health here as well. Interestingly enough, going with the Weapon Blade, I think he's just trying to steal away some of this farm. He is going to get caught out here, but look at the damage coming out. Von C is going to find Starboy for First Blood.
Finding Starboy for First Blood, and because they were able to split their experience, Von C does hit level 2 before Lone Delphi, and again, this is where I think Von C is going to play this really smart into this Baptiste. That's a kill going over to Von C. The Elder Treant is going to go over to the side of TSM, and if Von C plays this right, they might be able to find Truth as he rotates down, but it looks like he's just going to get back to farming.
Yeah, I think a smart call to clear up that farm. It doesn't look like Team Solomid was going to take those 2 bottom shops, so he could have left them for his jungle, but instead he feels Truth really strongly that he needs to get in there. That was really unfortunate. Starboy got really low in that fight right when it started, and of course Von C was able to clean it up. Catherine's just very weak early game. The Stormguard banner's not there, level 1. All she's got is a stun to slow down. But she scales really nicely as we get into the mid game.
Absolutely, she does, and especially with the recent Catherine updates with the 2 stacks now per stun or silence. So to me, that works out really well.
Nice stun stops Von C from thrashing into Lone Delphi. A couple more shots, he probably would have gone down. So buys him a little bit of breather here as they rotate out. I didn't get to see how much farms Team Solomid actually had stolen away, but looking at the CS, there is a slight lead going over to Von C.
Yeah, and again, I think Von C, just incredibly smart player, is going to understand how he needs to play this Kashka into the counter. And I still want to lean on TSM, even though Delphi did get this Baptiste into Von C's Kashka. If it was a different Kashka, I can see Lone Delphi taking this game, storming through. But this is a Von C Kashka. So to me, there's a lot of potential on both sides. It's just going to be dependent on the engages, and so far Von C getting a little ahead in farm is where he wants to be against this Baptiste, and Best Chuck sitting a little behind in lane is not a very common thing that we see. He's not horribly far behind, but usually we see Best Chuck ahead and Truth narrowly escaping before that recall was interrupted.
I know, I saw the last shot went all the way to base. So this is interesting because, you know, if they could stay pretty close, their composition will play well. Will offer a lot of burst damage. The biggest thing that comes with the Baptiste and Akashka is you have to use that Ordain to prevent Kashka from, either if she gets in on damage, to stay in on damage, or prevent her from being able to engage on you completely. Because Kashka does so much damage that if you're fighting inside of that Ordain, it's really not going to matter about the Ordain. Kashka's just going to keep dealing huge amounts of damage. And you really got to use it for positioning, and that's going to be critical. Truth gets lit up here. Almost goes down. One more shot might do it, as he does finally drop. Best Chuck a day cleaning. Oh, no, it's actually Von C gets credit with the kill. Nice job, though, by the whole team kind of following up here and just caught a little too far forward.
Yeah, a little bit too far forward, and again, TSM is very good and very consistent about capitalizing on an enemy team's mistakes, and that's what we're seeing here, is every time Nova steps out a little too far, TSM is there to punish them for it, and they've done very well securing, 3 kills so far. They haven't, again, they're a little behind in lane, which is uncommon for us to see Chuck at. But I think they're playing it really well. What he's missing on a couple farm, he's caught up with by getting an assist, getting smart rotations down, helping his team get positional and rotational advantage over the enemy.
That's correct. Yeah, Von C's a little bit ahead of Delphi, but not enormously. So this is still a very close game.
It is a very close game indeed, and Delphi getting a very, very good Ordained off there on the Kashka. Von C choosing not to burn his reflex block to engage, having that Crystal Miner down there and not knowing where the rest of Nova was. And it looks like we might be getting ready to have a little bit of a skirmish here in the lane. Von C does get caught by an Ordained. However, the Catherine stun is burned on Flash instead. Possibly a little miscommunication there. I think with the chain stun, they might have had the damage to get a follow-up on Von C underneath that turret.
Yeah, they did try. Unfortunately, a little bit of a hesitation. You see Truth actually lighting up the top bush there, thinking that possibly Von C's up there. Instead, Von C's back. He's farming. And that just goes to show you the fear that he puts into the enemy team's minds when he could be anywhere. And teams expect him to be a little bit aggressive, maybe more aggressive than other players. And that gives him the ability to really actually just play mind games with you throughout the whole game.
Yeah, maybe not striking enough fear yet, though, because we don't have a reflex block out of Lone Delphi or Truth or Starboy for that matter. And Kashka is level 7, has that yummy catnip frenzy, good to go, has backed for a little top off on energy and health. And this could be a big fight for TSM here if they find that stun.
It's still pretty early. They could actually, you see Starboy is building into potentially, oh, there's a reflex block for Truth. Yeah, Delphi might get a reflex block as well, and I am pretty sure with this composition, Starboy will eventually get a Crucible. So it's maybe not going to be a huge deal. We haven't seen the Catnip Frenzy just yet, but there it comes right now. It gets stunned up, and Von C getting lit here. As you see, Truth of Light is dropping very low. It's going to be actually the first kill of the fight going over to Team Solomid. Unfortunately, Lone Delphi not able to get enough damage on the Von C. Best Chuck a day and Flash are low as well, though, so they are going to disengage, trying real quickly to take this last healer. They're not going to get it, so I think it's a smart call for them to finally just move out. Playing really nicely at the edge of that fight. Once they knew that they had got the kill, but they were pretty low, not overcommitting to the positioning there, and just keeping a close eye on that healer tree.
Yeah, indeed. And one thing I really want to focus here, I think once Von C really gets one core item finished, I think we're going to see him prioritize really heavily into some defense. We've discussed before that Adagio is just really slow, and Chuck gets taken out by Delphi there.
Really great Ordain, keeps him in place.
Getting down incredibly low. The one-shot, one-kill is wide, but for Von C, I think a lot of your prioritization here has to be, once you get a lot of that early game damage built, you've got to think about committing into some defense. Flash is not going to be at the front of these fights. We discussed that before in the past, that Kashka just gets too ahead of an Adagio or other slow captains, Finn, Adagio, anybody of that nature. So it's going to be up to Von C to be able to tank up while still being bursty. He's an assassin. He needs to have that damage, but he also needs to soak some of these glimmer shots and bad mojos for Chuck so that he can scale up as the fights go on.
Yeah, interestingly enough, they didn't go for Goldmine that rotation. They might have had enough time, but it was pretty close. They instead rotate down, just focusing on farm, leaving that open. for both teams to still contest. What's actually really worth mentioning is just the insane amount of crowd control for engaging onto Nova. You've got to worry about the Ordained, you've got to worry about the stun, and then also there is the active camo. So Koshka, a lot to work with, and you actually see, of course, the early reflex on Vonsi respecting that. Vonsi gets lit up again. One more turret shot might do, but they actually get the turret before he goes down. They're going to try re-engaging. Flash X is in a tough spot. One Ordained might hold him close enough. Instead, they're going to completely disengage. And Team Solomid, really well played. They balanced that damage perfectly, got the objective, and got out without a kill, or without going down at least.
Yeah, and Chuck is actually looking pretty hurt here, and unfortunately, that one-shot, one-kill clips the turret. Otherwise, I believe it would have found Chuck. Really, really well played out of Team Solomid there. Getting down that turret has put them at just about 1,000 gold lead. So huge, huge, huge opportunity there. We really need to get this Vox to the late game. So to find that and not even give up a kill doing so is really good. However, again, I think we've seen a good performance so far out of Nova. You know, this Koshka is very early game dominant, whereas the Baptiste just is really good throughout all parts of the game. So I think Nova still has some potential if they can keep their composure to win this game still.
Absolutely. A really good play so far from Team Solomid, though, to just get that damage. Oh, it might have gotten Truth out. As you do see, Captain Frezzy, nice reflex blocked, holds him back. Active camo, white fight. Oh, almost flies best Chuck. He drops really low. Truth's taking a lot of damage. He is going to stay alive, find the kill. Best Chuck goes down as well, and there is an ace. Team Solomid getting lit up, and the crowd control, that is the huge difference here, Denominate. As when you see Vonsi looking to go in, it's not just one stun he's contesting, it's all three. And of course, paired together in a really tight area, it can be very difficult to juggle.
It is very difficult to double, especially since Koshka is, in general, a pretty squishy target. Her real strength is being very early game dominant. And again, the just skill shot damage that Truth and Lone Delphi are able to put out. We saw Vonsi drop really low very early in that fight, and they somehow managed to save the turret, and Flash X with a good block prevents the one-shot, one-kill. It looked like Truth was looking for that extra 900 gold for his team there. And actually, the gold has swung over to the side of Nova, so very, very good of Team Solomid there to prevent this turret from going down. Now, it is very, very hurt, but it still provides them a little bit of an opportunity to not give a little too much advantage over to Nova.
Absolutely. It is a huge gold race in the mid-game to make sure that you can get to those items faster. And so, 300 gold per player is a huge amount of gold. You really don't want to give that up. But Nova's playing really well so far, and Team Solomid, they just have to adjust here. They have to be careful for when they go into these air fights to give themselves enough space so that they don't run right into a stun after stun.
Exactly, and Vonsi diving in so heavily, he's very susceptible to obviously the chain stuns, especially if there's an active camo down. Vonsi does make it out of there pretty unscathed. And we have infusions on both Vonsi, Chuck, and also on Delphi and Truth. So this next fight could be very, very huge. We're not quite at a danger to Kraken, but if Nova gets any edge, they should be able to push the turret pretty uncontested, even with just one kill.
They definitely want that turret, but it's going to be hard. Team Solomid is rotating really well to prevent this minion wave from pushing too close to their turret, while also taking away some of even Nova's farm, which Nova's got to be careful. They don't want to pull off the gas yet. They really have a good momentum moving in, especially against the Koshka. Koshka's really struggled to find that really strong momentum or even that many kills. Look at Vonsi, he's got 4 and 1, but most of those kills were early on, and now it's, kills leads is going over to Nova just because they've been able to handle these fights here better in the mid game.
Yeah, and again, I think a lot of that is really due to this Baptiste pick. Typically speaking, when you pick Koshka, you're really trying to aggress in the early game. You really want to win that early game, and that's where Koshka excels the most, is by winning the early game. Flash X with a heal to save his life.
Yeah, big time heal. He needed that. He would have nearly dropped, but he's so low it's going to recall. This is likely going to be Nova now, being able to push up. They are going to find all 2 members of Team Solomid's carries. Flash X comes right on the side. There is a Verse of Judgment, gets the kill. Flash X, man, almost going down and then able to come back into that fight and stay alive. We're going to see Vonsi getting very low. He's going to be saved by the heal again. And Team Solomid, man, unbelievable. Even when they really were in a kind of an awkward position day, still able to win that fight. Really great mechanical skills right there.
Really good mechanical skills out of TSM, and an awesome Yummy Catnip Frenzy coming out of Von C. He activated it from the brush, not giving Delphi enough time to react. Delphi did get stunned up, and Best Chuck with that breaking point, tension bow, and shiv build was just able to take Delphi out of the fight incredibly quickly. A one-shot, one-kill comes out a little bit late. That is a gold mine going over to Team Solomid. And just like that, Team Solomid capitalizes on a mistake. We discussed this earlier, and really punishing Nova for it in a big gold swing. You know, Nova was up about 1,500 gold, and now we're down to, actually, we're up 3,000 in the favor of Team Solomid.
This is a pivotal swing for Team Solomid. Really kind of a heartbreaker for Nova so far. They could get back into this game, but look at that turret. It's sitting on just a sliver of health, and there's nothing Nova has found a way to deal with it. They haven't been able to push the lane when they try to engage in the fight. Even when they think that they've caught Team Solomid in a bad position, they still are not finding ways to get these kills or ace, or really, you know, really as Koshka's hitting really her prime. I mean, at 15 minutes, she's almost close to that broken myth. It'll be about as strong as she'll be for most of the game. And this is something that Nova needs to be aware of and respect a little.
Yeah, and again, I think Nova has the potential. They definitely have the skill, if they keep their composure, that they can still take this game from Team Solomid. As the game goes on, this Koshka does fall off. It's going to be about blocking that Yummy Catnip Frenzy. You cannot eat a 3-second stun, and there it is again, finding truth.
Unbelievably played by Team Solomid as they find all those kills. They really were very patient with how they altered. Look, I don't know if you noticed, but Von C reflex blocked the Ordained perfectly and also avoided the active camo. And just Nova unable to respond to it. And honestly, they really should have been losing these fights in these certain positions, and they are. And now, with the gold lead being, you know, almost 5,000, it's going to be hard for them to dig out of this hole.
Yeah, and Von C doing a great job. You know, I really stressed earlier that he needs to prioritize building some frontline defense because he's going to be the one diving in. And we see it already completed here. He has the Aegis. He has 2 armors. It is a tier 2 and a tier 1, not quite a metal jacket, but really showing that he understands that he needs to eat the damage so that Best Chuck can build up this breaking point and clean out the fights. And that's exactly what's been going on. In that last fight, neither Delphi nor Truth was able to use their reflex block. Both reflex blocks were still up, which could have given them a little more life in that fight to find the kill.
Yeah, they really have to start paying attention to that. I think they might be just a little, I don't know, I don't want to say sweaty or whatever. They're just missing that one key button and they need to hit. Because the Koshka ult, and in fact, in that case, was a little bit more obvious. I mean, the one thing Von C has done, though, is been patient about utilizing it. So that way, almost to try to bait out an early reflex block, but you know, they're not using it at all, so they just need to be careful. We do see a Kraken pushing down here. Team Solomid, they are in a good spot. They could end this. And you know what? They're respecting the fact that they are an early game composition, looking to take this game as quickly as possible. Versus Judgment coming out, forces the reflex block. So this means Koshka's going to have full reign if she decides to go in. A lot of damage comes in. There's another Catnip Frenzy stun on. It is going to be Von C. He's so close to dropping. He does drop. Now Best Chuck, and he has to be careful. He uses a reflex block into the active camo and survives. Gets the kill. And just like that, Team Solomid have won this game.
Team Solomid should indeed be able to win this game pretty uncontested. And again, the reflex block is missed on the Yummy Catnip Frenzy. That is a 2.2-second stun that really dropped Truth dangerously low, and Chuck was able to follow up. And very, very clean game out of Team Solomid. I'm pretty impressed by the Koshka play into this Baptiste. You know, he played it really well. And again, Team Solomid just capitalizing every single time Nova made a mistake.
Yeah, Von C really played well. There was a few times he got caught out, made a few mistakes, took more damage than expected. But once he started timing his reflex block, and also the Aegis really helped there in those circumstances, prevented a lot of that damage from being soaked in. He was able to survive, and Team Solomid, they are going to take Gabe #1 here in this best of 3.
Yeah, and hopefully Nova can really recognize that, you know, this is one of the top teams. They can't let a loss get to them too much. Again, you know, Delphi maybe needing to work on these reflex blocks a little bit. That last fight was hugely critical. He got stunned up by the whole Koshka ult. You can't let the fact that you lost to Team Solomid get to you though. So
you can't, and there were definitely a few areas where Nova was, I think, playing really well, and I think that they maybe had a few misplays there where they weren't able to let that fight turn their favor. As really that one fight where they did catch the two Team Solomid carries on the low side of that tri-bush, and they weren't able to get enough damage to bring him down, and a missed reflex block by Lone Delphi did not be able to survive that fight. Probably hurt a little bit too, but with that, you got to brush it off, like you said. You got to get ready for game number 2, and game number 2, we're just about ready to get started, actually.
Yes, we are, and we'll be moving into the draft here in just a moment. Hopefully,
just waiting for Flash X to let me know.
Yeah, and I think Nova did a good job with the draft. I actually would go as far to say as I think Nova won that draft. They gotta pull together some of the micro skills that maybe they lack in comparison to Team Solomid.
Yeah, because the Baptiste, I could have sworn Von C was going to pick the Baptiste. He played it so often, he was so good at it, and it would have just prevented them from picking it on the other side. But the Koshka pick was, I think, just one of those picks that he wanted to play, and he felt like, I can win this game even on Koshka, and, well, he was right. They did.
And again, he played it really smart. So he built the early defense, which really gave him the potential he needed to move into the late game. And again, just really, really smart out of Team Solomid. This is not a team that you can take for granted. And that's just what we see happening is, Von C understands, yes, I'm Koshka, but I still need to build all this defense. And he was able to bait out a lot of the damage and really let Chuck take over those fights really quickly. So the Grumpjaw ban and the Vox ban, leaving a Baron open. So this is interesting to me coming out of Team Solomid. I think this was a bit of a bait here. I really expect Team Solomid could pull something out like a Grace here. We've seen Grace with the success into the Baron able to prevent that burst damage. I think Team Solomid is baiting out the Baron here.
They could, right? We talked about, there's a glaive, so the crowd control is a big factor to preventing the Baron from getting out of control, stunning him up, taking him down early. If he gets so far behind, he's just not going to get to the late game soon enough to help you win the game. I wouldn't be surprised if Team Solomid then picks up another support that can offer some crowd control. We could see the Lyra, because the Lyra, they do ban the Catherine, so I feel like if you're Nova, you almost have to ban the Lyra here. That portal onto the Baron can really remove his ability to escape.
And they've been put in a very difficult situation here. So we've taken the Catherine out of the picture. They either have to ban away the Lyra or the Grace here, because if they ban away the Grace, they leave that huge, heavy engaged potential available from, and they ban the Koshka.
So Team Solomid, I think they take the Lyra here. I don't know if the Grace is really strong enough to deal with the Baron anyways.
The Grace is strong when playing on the back foot, trying to be defensive against the Baron, and the Lyra is very aggressive, which we typically see out of Von C and Flash combination. Von C has reined back a little bit and has learned when to be aggressive, when not to be. So I could really see either, and they do pick up the Grace, and I do like this pick. Just the in general shield, AoE shield that she provides her team, reducing a percentage of damage, is very, very good into Baron. Now, it's not as engage heavy as Lyra, but it does offer a lot of potential, especially when paired with the crowd control from this glaive.
Yeah, now this does mean, though, that Nova can pick up the Lyra, and Starbuck's Lyra is pretty good, and this will allow him to offer a little bit of protection onto the Baron, right? You could, if you think they're going to engage, you could get a little bit of a preemptive feel or sighting. You could actually bulwark to protect the Baron. That's one way, and then also you provide a little bit of extra heal. So this is going to be tough. They're going to go with the Lance. It's good crowd control. It is really, really potent, but I feel in this case the Lyra could have been maybe a little bit better.
I definitely feel the Lyra could have brought a little help getting Baron to the late game. Lance can function pretty well into Glaive. Glaive, obviously, once he's burned that gap closer, if you're able to separate him from Baron, you can have some varying success there. It's just going to be really, really difficult, because if Glaive is able to get to the back line and reposition Baron, then it's not really going to matter at that point if you push him away, because there's very, very likely going to be a Gwen probably coming out, I would say, out of the side of Team Solomid. And if not a Gwen, they may actually flex the Glaive into the lane and run another aggressive composition into the jungle.
Oh, Samuel comes in. We have seen the dive composition, like a Black Feather, come out. Idris is also really strong. Team Solomid goes with the Kestrel, though, so instead focusing on the poke, I mean, I like it, but the problem Kestrel does have to stop to launch those Glimmer shots. A Baron could deal a few shots into her while she's in that pause position, but I think played correctly. But it is best Chuck at A, so, you know, you obviously have to give a little lenience to the fact that he is going to play it very, very well. But
I actually would be so bold to say is I think this is going to be Chuck on the Glaive and Von C on the Kestrel.
That really might be it, and that would make a lot of sense going into the positions we see. The poke into Samuel makes a lot more sense, and Glaive could easily do some CC into that Baron in the lane.
Yeah, and more importantly, the repositioning of Baron, because the Baron, once he gets to the late game, is going to need to be aggressive to find his success. If the Glaive can reposition and really get Baron in front of those Glimmer shots, then that's going to be absolutely huge. And that is what we are going to see here. We do see best Chuck locking that Glaive. This just makes so much sense to me for Team Solomid. Von C, an absolutely phenomenal jungle Kestrel, and the Glaive actually handles pretty well into Baron, able to really punish him in the early game. He has a lot of health and is going to have a lot of sustain from very likely going into a Poison Shiv first item. That's going to help him heal up as he's in the lane. And that is also going to help him heal up some of the damage that Truth is going to be able to put down in this Baron when they're in team fights.
Yep, that is correct, as we look to go in. Right call by you, Day, as... I'm actually really excited. We've seen Best Chuck Day actually play the Glaive a few times, and he plays it very well. It's definitely something that's very viable. It's as people kind of tried to find counters to Baron. Baron still hits like a truck, but if you could find ways to put him at least in a position where he takes the most amount of damage, you can be in good shape.
X over here, really sticking his head out here, knowing that there's not a whole lot of early game potential from this level 1 Samuel and Baron. Just doing a good job being a nuisance. Chuck may be able to steal away this camp. It's going to be a little risky, and they do not find it. So a little bit of time wasted from Team Solomid here. They are being a little bit of a nuisance, but you know, a nuisance doesn't go very far when you're missing out on gold.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised. I mean, we do see both laners here in the jungle. Best Sugar Day could probably have gone up to the lane by this point. Instead, going in, they're looking to try to get the kill because Von C has showed up. As they push in, nice get through the wall, slows down this all just a little bit, and it will be Truth finally making it to the lane. As a little bit of a hesitation by Truth as he moves in, trying to make sure he doesn't get set up for a gank.
Yeah, and again, they're playing it pretty well. We do see a little bit of gold advantage on the side of Nova just because they were farming when TSM was trying to get a little bit of pushing power down, hoping to steal something away. I really do like this composition that Team Solomid has into Nova. I think the Grace functions really well with the Crystal Kestrel, gives her a lot of sustain that typically we wouldn't normally see. As well as Best Chuck's going to be able to soak a lot of damage. He's probably going to prioritize a bit of defense into Truth early, and with the engagement from Flash giving away that shield for the team, that's going to percentage damage block as well. So as long as Chuck is able to get to Baron or get to Samuel and position them well for Von C, this should be a win for Team Solomid.
So far, it's pretty even, neck and neck, like you said. Small, what was it, 100 gold? Probably less, going in favor of Nova. So they're just keeping it close, granted, due to the fact they were able to get a little farm earlier. But already, Von C is out-farming Lone Delphi. The only real advantage so far in the lane, Truth, you kind of expect the range melee, the range hero to out-farm a melee, and typically we actually see the opposite happen, just because of how aggressive a melee glaive could be, but in this case, not surprising thanks to the early advantage, they were able to get it. There is a missed potential stun by Flash, it's going to be ultimately Nova just disengaging, getting out, rotate back up to the lane. Looking to just try to find something here. This is game number 2, everybody. You are watching the VG8 powered by VIS. And we are... this is our last series of today. And, of course, if you guys are following the VG8, make sure you guys tune to their channel, of course, when we're done as well. Oh, wait. Huge fight breaking out. Nova gets really low. Truth of Light is going to drop. Wow. I mean, big misplay by Nova there as we did see the Kestrel rotate up.
Yeah, it looked like Nova wanted to capitalize on Chuck being low, but we're not really ready for Von C to come up. And that is going to be 2 kills going over to the side of Team Solomid, with that bonus gold from First Blood going on to Best Chuck. So really going to accelerate this glaive. And Weapon Glaive handles really well into Baron. He has a lot of burst potential and a lot of sustain potential on top of that. He's just really good all around in team fights. So again, with this Grace helping him be tanky, he's going to be able to commit to a lot of offense, which is going to help him get to a point in the game that he'll be able to build up some defense and really be a nuisance for Truth on this Baron.
Well, so far, everything's kind of going for plan for Team Solomid. They got the early kill. They've got the early gold lead. They're just letting themselves get ramped up here as we get farther and farther. And Von C on the Crystal Kestrel. I love seeing the Crystal Kestrel come out because it is a very poke heavy, but a poke heavy from a distance where Von C maybe doesn't have to be as aggressive, maybe won't die as often. It's something from a Koshka. You are taking a certain amount of risk from going in. We are going to see, oh, right here, nicely played. Already has a lot of crystal power. Lands 2 glimmer shots. Actually, make that 3. 1-shot, 1 kill. Wow, early 1-shot gets the kill. And Team Solomid, man, they are looking to now put some damage on this turret.
They are indeed, and you know they probably won't be able to take it because Samuel's coming up and has a lot of pushing potential. A lot of damage coming down on Von C, and this is something we need to talk about because yes, it's a Samuel. It doesn't really feel like the right pick, but it is Lone Delphi on Samuel, and we know he is very, very proficient on this hero. So it's going to be interesting to see the splash damage that they're allowed to provide moving into the late game. Ought to be huge, especially since Crystal Kestrel typically builds little to no defense with the exception of maybe a reflex block.
Well, although with no defense, from a distance, he's still doing a lot of damage. They have been unable to get on top of Von C whatsoever. Instead, it's really been a defensive playstyle coming out of Nova, and this is unfortunate. They can play into the late game well, but you want to see at least a little bit more damage and aggression, at least when they're right up in front of Nova's turret. I mean, Team Solomid just feels like they can move very freely right now. Now we do have both Nova, Starboy, and Lone Delphi. They're down the jungle. Almost probably would have caught a Von C shopping. And now everyone's rotating up to lane. 1-shot, 1 hill lands onto Truth, and look at the engage. They are able to follow up. It's going to be a turret getting very low, close to going down. Truth's got to be careful. He's already down to half health, but here comes Lone Delphi. Nice job landing up. We are going to see the poke from this Mouse and Verdict. Absolutely fantastic. Is going to get the active camo stun. So, man, Lone Delphi he didn't even know he was going over top of that active camo back and forth. And right probably at the last second, he was able to get that activation onto the active camo. Really bad luck for Nova.
Yeah, bad luck, and we've seen Chuck capitalize super fast there. So, Truth is able to find that health camp. A little silver lining there, but you know, as soon as that stun went down onto Lone Delphi from that active camo, Chuck dove right in on this glaive and was able to finish him up. So that is 2 kills going over to both Von C and Chuck, now up 4-0.
Yeah, not a bad spot to be. The glaive pick here is going to be very hard to deal with early, and Flash X, I mean, it's nice to see him on the Grace. He had an awesome video really early on how to play Grace. You have to imagine he's been putting in a lot of time with this hero as a support. And one of the things...
I think across the board, a lot of people are putting a lot of time in with Grace. She is incredibly strong, and you'd really be punishing yourself by not practicing Grace because there is a lot of potential, especially on B side. She's not really good enough to safely make a first pick because there are ways to effectively play into Grace. But on B side, once you have a hero committed on A side, it opens up a lot of your draft on B side, and Grace is very, very engage heavy in the early game, and a good stun coming out of Flash here. So if Flash can continue to play it well, he's using his A correctly. I'm not 100% familiar with the names of the abilities yet, but man, a great glimmer shot coming out of
Truth. I don't know what Truth was thinking diving that deep into it. They did want the kill. It is, you know, pretty low Team Solomid, but maybe a little bit of a bait there. Maybe Truth just pushing it way too far. Lone Delphi's the last man standing. Lone Delphi is... Oh! Best Chuck accidentally knocked Lone Delphi outside of the Grace's stun. And now Lone Delphi's cleaning it up, man. 2 kills going over to him. He is going to pick up Nova's first 2 kills of the game.
And again, this is Lone Delphi, Samuel, and he's been very good on this hero in the past and showing right now that he is still good on this hero, can bring it to the table. And again, the side of Nova has a very scaling comp. As the game gets later, they are going to have a easier win condition. A big one-shot, 1-kill finds huge damage onto Delphi there. Vonsi is going to get spotted by a scout trap there and takes a lot of damage, but man, the Kestrel play, oh my goodness, Vonsi. A huge stun out of Flash helps Vonsi's Glimmer Shots find the kill, and that is going to be Starboy dropping over to Best Chuck. That is an 8-2 lead with 3,000 gold on the side of Team Solomid.
It's really rough for Nova right now, but they could definitely still find ways to get back into this. The real surprise here has been Truth on the Baron. A lot of this comes down to the fact that he has very little protection if they can get past the Lance. So Lance offers a lot of control. You know, it's not a bad pickup. As we were mentioning, Lyra would have been another hero that could have played this way. But we actually have seen Truth kind of diving in front, into the front line, into these fights, taking a lot of damage, and not really the play style you want when you're playing Baron.
Right, it's definitely... This patch, we see a lot more teams comfortable going into the Baron, which to me is awesome to see. You know, we regard Baron as, you know, this super strong pick that has a high win percentage, but with the time that teams have committed into putting into Baron last patch, we see this patch they're finding a couple different ways to deal with them, as a matter of fact. You know, heavy engaging from Lyra's, diving assassins. We've seen Vox with varying success into Baron, which is incredibly huge, which... If Grace plays a huge part into is if you can get Vox to survive the early fight, once Baron's burst has been expended, Vox has a lot of damage potential that ramps up from there.
The Baron at 10 minutes does have 2 tier 3 offensive items, but is a little low. Not quite going to be able to hit that 3 by 12 minutes. And that is a slight advantage. And actually, also, Lone Delphi on the Samuel a little bit behind. Only has 1 tier 3 item. So I have prioritized a little bit of defense. Best Chuck today might have been caught out, and Cannon did come out for positioning. But it is actually, wow, Starboy taking a lot of damage as he hit the front line. Oh, look at the afterburn time with the Glimmer Shots. Team Solomid perfectly executing that combo. Able to get a kill early. Man, they just lit up Truth. Not having a good game right now. As Oblivion does come in, blocked out, and it's going to be another turret going over to Team Solomid.
They're playing it so incredibly well. So Vonsi's very accurate with these Glimmer Shots. He's been doing a very good job hitting multiple targets with the Glimmer Shots as well, which gives Glaive a huge potential to dive in and pick who he wants to take out of the fight. This time it happens to be Truth on this Baron, dying incredibly fast after a couple huge Glimmer Shots from Vonsi that... With this Crystal Kestrel, it's a lot harder for Lance to body block them as opposed to a weapon Kestrel.
And it's just a lot of burst as well. I mean, the Sorrow Blade on Best Chuck. The other thing, too, is Truth only has a little bit of armor. So these Glimmer Shots, double Shatterglass Glimmer Shots, mind you, they're really hard to deal with. As, wow, Truth gets lit up again. He is able to Rocket Leap out of here very low as they look to race towards their Crystal Sentry. Just as a defensive ploy, hopefully maybe surviving, but Nova really has to be careful. Truth was so low. 1 shot, 1 kill, plus the Glaive going in, man. Almost taking him out.
And this is kind of the risk you take running a Samuel and a Baron, is both of these heroes to excel really well into the late game need to prioritize their offense early. And that's what's made it so susceptible for Vonsi to get a Glimmer Shot or 2 down and almost take somebody out of the fight. There is no shield built from Lone Delphi or Truth.
Starboy does take that 1 shot this time. Definitely a little bit of a silver lining, but look how low Truth gets, and Starboy's down. And it doesn't even matter. They're able to find the damage where they want it. Lone Delphi very low. Oh, not able to dodge out those Glimmer Shots. Vonsi finds the other kill. Flash X was low, but they get the 2 kills. They're going to be able to clear out this turret. Oh! Crystal Sentry getting the kill onto Vonsi.
It was actually the Treant, not even the Crystal Sentry.
Oh, sorry, Treant, yeah.
The Root was able to clean up Vonsi after... If he would have waited a split second, the turret aggro would have switched to minions, but he went in a little too quick. Or Best Chuck went out a little too quick, dropping the aggro, which is really what got Von C killed there.
Yeah, that's actually huge, and the gold went over to Samuel, so big shutdown gold going his way, and that's going to help him buy a few items, and they got to be careful, Samuel, in the late game with a Baron, with a Lance, they could really throw things around and surprise you, so Nova not out of this game yet, but we are looking at almost 10,000, or no, about a 6,000 gold lead for the side of Team Solomid here, so definitely a big hole to come out of.
It is indeed, and we see Flash starting to go into some crystal power, which is going to give him even more damage reduction, AoE damage reduction for his team.
Ooh,
and,
wow.
Man, one kill taking a huge chunk out of Delphi.
Oh, double. Yeah, and I'm surprised Team Solomid didn't rush in. They are going to be able to get whatever they want in the jungle, as it's a recall force by Nova. Instead, they're going to go with the gold mine here. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Well, Ion Cannon is going to come out, but too soon. So that's about as much as they could do, as Nova is going to be forced to get back and leave this fight. Team Solomid now with an even larger gold lead, now up to, looks like 7,000 gold. As they find Truth. Ooh, very, very close.
Very, very close indeed, and the one-shot, one-kill does not find its target, and Chuck is actually going to get rooted up, which probably saved Truth's life there.
Well,
but
if only for a second.
Making sure to clean it up.
If only for a second. They're going to get this Crystal Sentry. And Team Solomid now, they're really unstoppable in this game. Lone Delphi not able to land those Malice and Verdicts, gets blown up. There is an afterburn kill. And
that is going to be
wow.
Starboy dropping.
Yep. That's
really good coordination coming out of Team Solomid here. And what it comes down to at this point, being this far behind, the side of Nova, really, all they can do for, to pull together a fight here is if they find a couple empowered Malice and Verdicts as well as a Jump Jets onto Von C. Von C has absolutely no defense. They may be able to find a kill and swing a fight, but this is going to be Kraken going over to Team Solomid with only 2 turrets alive and Nova being incredibly far behind. 8,000 gold behind right now. And that is a Baron ult down, only hitting the Kraken, so this is absolutely huge.
Yeah, it doesn't even do almost hardly any damage, too. So, I mean, they wasn't able to steal it. Very unfortunate. Nova, they're in a tight spot. And they really, to survive this with the aggression we've seen from Team Solomid, the fact that they can really dive deep, even with this Kestrel. The Kestrel can get in there, poke, and get out. Thanks to really Flash X and Best Chuck A, they're able to engage and actually create a moving front line. So when the Kestrels maybe get a little bit too far out, they can get into position to soak up some of that damage. That's Chuck and A also been able to do a lot of burst. There is a Get the Wall coming out. They're looking to go in. There is the engage. Grace does get her stun, but it's Best Chuck and A finding Lone Delphi underneath the turret. He keeps going. The turret shots are building up, but it's not going to stop Team Solomid. They're going to get the ace, and this is the win. Team Solomid 2-0 over Nova Esports.
Yeah, really, really well played out of Team Solomid here. And again, this is really what we expect to see out of Team Solomid. They're just a very consistent team. So they played it really well. Again, I really, really like the Grace pick into Baron overall. I think if you're going to commit to a Baron pick that early, then you need to be prepared to deal with it on the other end. And, so far, TSM has been looking really good, and I like the flexibility they bring to the table. We've discussed several times before that you really can't take Team Solomid too heavily off of a comfort pick.
You really can't. They played it perfectly. Winning the series, congratulations to Team Solomid as they move on to the semifinals for the Vainglory 8. And that concludes our broadcast for today, everybody. I want to thank everyone for watching. Again, my name is Dragonborn, and my co-host today was Denomine. We bring you guys the Vainglory 8 powered by VIS every single Saturday, where we take the off-stream matches and bring it to you guys here on VIS League. Make sure you guys hit the follow and follow us on Twitter. Of course, guys, we're going to be coming back to you this Wednesday and Thursday as we get the second week of Challengers, where we conclude Group A and Group B. You guys aren't going to miss it. Tons of action going on in Challengers, as well as a lot of exciting teams like Immortals and Tribe Gaming look to climb the ladder back into Vainglory 8. Now, for everybody, make sure you guys go and tune back in to the Vainglory 8 channel to finish the conclusion of this first week here in the quarterfinals for VG8 North America. We'll see you guys all then, and see you over in the Vainglory main channel in just a few seconds. Good night.